get rid of your imposter syndrome ASAP. There is nothing that will hold you back more than that. Imposter syndrome, it always feels like I am not good enough. I am not good enough to speak on this podcast. What would I say? That imposter syndrome that we constantly have, the constant judgment that we have on ourselves, I feel that's much more in the female world. Role always holds you back. It tells you that you're not special enough to speak somewhere or put your point somewhere or be somewhere. We tie ourselves in shackles that we need to break on our own. So that I had to break that mindset, saying that I have something substantial to bring on the table. I should put it on the table. Whether people think that it's substantial enough or not is for them to decide. So I had to constantly fight that. Every small girl who's there, who's trying to get something, who's from a very small part of India, trying to get somewhere, these societal norms, don't let them hold you back. It's not worth it. You are worth something so much more. It's just in your head, you have to tell yourself that you're worth more.
On the show today, we've got Shilpi Roy. She's a tech VP, an Indian classical dancer, and a toddler mom. In this episode, Shilpi opens up about a deeply personal struggle with imposter syndrome and how she's been able to grow and thrive in her life and career by saying yes to opportunities. If you've ever felt like you don't belong or your voice isn't welcome at the table, this is for you, because Shilpi is going to challenge you to grow and by her story, hopefully inspire you to take concrete steps for your career growth. Anyways, see you on the other side. Well, Shilpi, you sent me your bio. And I was wondering if you could introduce yourself to our listeners. Who is Shilpi and what makes her tick?
Yeah, so Shilpi, as people know, is I am working in JP Morgan for quite some time now, 8 years now. I started in JP Morgan, Bangalore, then shifted my base here to Glasgow. I am a tech lead. I enjoy coding by day. But recently, that was all part of my conversation, my introduction till a few years ago. But now, with my toddler coming into my life, I feel there's a new dimension to my introduction. And like navigating the world of crayons, storybooks. Like I know they say that toddlers have a lot of tantrums, but I'm really enjoying this phase of his where he's more vocal, he's able to have conversations with me, he's able to make me understand a little bit of what's going inside his little mind. It's quite fascinating, to be honest. So that is a major part of my now. I cannot give an introduction without saying that I am a toddler mom. It just doesn't feel complete. I love reading books. I like all kinds of books, but in general, something that gives me more perspective into human emotions, because I feel that's the more complex part of it. That's there. So I enjoy reading books. I'm a classical dancer. I'm an Indian classical dancer.
So cute in Indian classical music.
Yeah. And I'm part of a troupe here that my lovely friend started. So we are part of, we do dances across with the troupe. And yeah, that's something that I enjoy doing in my weekends. Reading, playing with my toddler and dancing.
Okay. So Shilpi, you're a VP in technology, you're a toddler mom, you're an Indian classical dancer. But take me back to your upbringing, right? So Shilpi, maybe 8 or 9 years old in India, I'm in your home. What do I see?
You would see, it would be a typical middle-class Indian family.
Okay.
My mom and dad would be around. So I was brought in a very close-knit family. So unlike most of the Indian families, ours was a nuclear family. So we got all the tension. So I did not have many cousins growing up.
Did you not?
No, it was not
That's
like
very typical.
Yeah, it was not like a typical Indian joint family. I had my cousins, but they were like outside of the home.
Oh,
so
I see, okay.
you meet them during the weekends or during functions and holidays, that kind of things. But in the house itself was like a close-knit family. And we would be playing games together, and I would be practicing dance. If you definitely walk in, we'll be practicing dance. My mom would be making her chicken curry and rice on a Sunday along with salad. So whenever I think about my childhood, because I am a very, I'm obsessed with food, you can say, I relate all my memories to smell.
Really?
Yeah, so if I think about my childhood, I can smell my mom's chicken curry.
Oh, wow.
So that is still there. Like if it is cooked anywhere else, I know that it reminds me of my mom. So childhood memory is about the typical Indian Sunday lunch that she used to do, and it would be like hanging around with and reading books. I used to love reading books. So I remember the first Enid Blyton book I got from a library. So I'd be in a corner sitting and reading my Enid Blyton books. I would be going for my dance classes. So that would be a typical day in our lives.
Right, and in that period of your life, who were some influential figures? Who are some people who sort of shaped your story or whose impact on your life are sort of like helped shape your trajectory, even from then till the Shilpi that is in front of me right now?
I think different people impact your lives at different stages. But at those growing up phases, I think my mom was a very prominent figure in the family. Like my love for fraud books comes from her. She was never able to take up dancing. So she pushed me into dancing, and I did my first stage performance when I was 3 years old. So I actually have a photo of me wearing like a small costume and trying. I don't know what I did on the stage, but just because she couldn't do it, she was trying to live her life through me.
You.
She wanted to make sure that I need to become somebody who is financially independent, who is able to earn, who's able to take her own decisions. So that is something that she instilled very young in me, and that's the reason like most of the Indian families I've seen have that gender role, like gender typical roles in the home. I have never faced that. Like I was born in the 1980s, so that was quite long time back before this whole woke up generation came, but I never felt that I was differently treated than my brother. That was never the case. I was never expected to cook or clean the house just because I was a girl. So that was always the case. That gave me the freedom in my head somewhere that always made me feel equal to the men. I never felt that I need to take a step back because I'm a woman. So she was a very powerful influence. Unknowingly, she passed on a lot of things. Maybe when she hears the podcast, she'll be like, I never explicitly told anything to you, but the way the dynamics in the house were, I felt my mom and dad are equal and I have the equal say in my house. That shaped up what Shilpi is till date. It helps me when I'm managing a team of so many people here. I never feel that I need to take a step back or I need to think because I'm a girl. I am able to take bold decisions, and the credit goes to my parents on that upbringing that they gave me.
Okay. And still talking about your childhood, what would you say is one of your happiest childhood memories?
Happiest childhood memories would be going for holidays with my parents. So we could not afford many holidays, but when little holidays that we could afford, those were really special because we'd be packing our bags, going on the train. Again, memory, we'll eat something in the train, so I remember that. But those were really special because they were very less. Right now with the affluent life that we are leading from compared to that, it's okay for us to buy dresses when you see something nice. In my childhood, we had to wait for one particular festival in October to buy a dress. And that was so special because, you wait for that for the entire year. You get your toys on your birthday. So I feel that was really nice when we were growing up. Now it is more like you lose the charm of things because it's more accessible to you. I can go into H&M and buy a dress that I want. But that was never that doesn't give me the same happiness that a childhood dress that might give me. So my happiest moments when we were traveling together, going on the train, and the Indian Railway food, the hawkers that used to come. That was the most special memory.
Okay. Now we have quite a number of listeners that are mostly based, I think, in the UK, in the US, and I think Nigeria. Describe the context of India in shaping your story as well, like your culture, your background, your traditions, and just describe that sort of culture as well too.
If you say India in itself is a huge country, as you know, right? Like North, South, they're very different. The interesting part of my story is I belong to a city called Jamshedpur, which is famous for Tata Steel, right?
Oh,
Tata owns Jaguar.
Right.
If I move it into the international world of things, Tata owns Jaguar, Land Rover. So Tata Steel, the steel city itself is where I stay because my father used to work in Tata Steel. So there would be colonies for all their workers and we used to stay in those colonies. Now this became a boon for us because people from all over India came to work there.
I get you.
So in my apartment, I know for a matter of fact that I know house number 1, there's somebody from south of India. House number 2, there's somebody from north of India, west of India. So I knew about all the festivals.
Free food as well.
And free food as well. So that shaped a lot. Like that was India for me. I never understood there's a different religions should be separate, treated differently. I didn't understand that because we all grew up together. We went to mosques, we went to temples, and it was the same thing for us. So that secular India, I have actually seen it all through my life because I was not staying in one part of India. I was staying with the entire India. So that cultural diversity is the biggest USP for India, I feel, because that makes us very, like when we are coming on the global stage as well, we are easily able to accept other people because we have grown up with different kinds. is India, but it is different parts of India because of the huge length and breadth of the country. When you travel even to the west, the culture is completely different.
How so, actually? Like, speak a bit into how different, like, the cultures are. Is it in terms of food, in terms of language?
In terms of everything, even the way people look. So I can look at a person from India and tell where they're from.
Joking.
Yes, because the country itself, if you see, the southern part of India is very close to equator and the northern part of India is close to Himalayas.
I see.
So the huge gap, it changes the way you look, right? And the east part of India is very close to China. So you can see how like it is closer to Tibet and China, that part. We share a border with China. So because of that, we share a border with Afghanistan, we share a border with...
I see.
So there's a different culture. And the south of India is completely surrounded by water at all sides. So the culture is different, the food is different. Eventually, the love for the country is the same. But if you say India, it's more like how Europe is. There are different countries and you just can go across them. India is just like that. We are just not broken into different countries.
Gotcha. And if there's something I know, I think most Indians love, apart from like the nice curry and stuff, is cricket.
Cricket, yes.
Tell me about cricket. Like,
cricket, the best way to describe for us is it's a religion. It's a religion. Like, if there is a match on Sunday, you won't believe the streets would be empty. You remember how empty the streets were when it was COVID?
Yeah.
It would be that empty because
joking.
there's a match. So cricket, like every boy, girl, that's the first thing that we learn. So my son here has a bat and a ball.
How old is your son?
2.5. Doesn't even know what cricket is, but he has to play with us. So my husband, still he goes for cricket here. So that is something that we bring along with us, that there's something that we love and cherish.
Yeah.
So our cricketers are like our superstars and like we worship them.
Yeah. So. It's interesting because like you said something about where you lived. You had people from different parts of India sort of come. And India is huge, right? Like over 1 billion people.
Yeah.
And I think I had the same experience in Nigeria as well. So I lived in a small town called Bashita. But Bashita exists because it was a big sugar company, similar to Tata. Yeah. And so you had people from various parts of Nigeria come. So some people at some point even called Bashita like mini Nigeria. Yeah. And it took me a while to appreciate that diversity, but with time, it then made me realize, oh my goodness, even though we were from different backgrounds, we all got together. Like, you know, like I had Muslim friends, Ramadan, like you just got together. We want humanity. There's no need for all the labels and stuff. So when you said, I was like, that's actually very interesting. But let's move into like technology. Where did your love for tech come from? When was the first time you started to sense, I think I'm kind of liking this tech thing?
My family was, again, my mom's elder brother. So he got into tech in the 1980s. So that was like when tech was not even a thing in India. So we always knew that there's somebody who is into the tech. And whenever he used to come home, we used to ask about like, what do you do? And it seems like something that would interest us. So you won't believe, after that, all the cousins that we know of, everybody went into tech. Because that's what, so me, my brother, my cousins, they all are in tech. So that is something that interested us because we knew that there's somebody in the family who introduced us to tech when we were very young. Yeah, and even in school, I had a very good computer teacher. So it was really helpful when initially it was in the 1990s when we were in school. We used to have one computer lab where you're not supposed to wear shoes because everybody thought the virus is going to get into the computer. I swear that's what everybody thought. So we used to open our shoes and enter the labs. So I am from that era, not to sound old, but yeah. So then, we discovered that it's more than playing games. You could work on something like this and create something on your own, and that was interesting. So I think that's where we started.
Interesting. And how also transitioning to the UK from there? So at what point did you move from India to the UK, and how do you find that transition? What was the journey like for you?
It was 2019, end of 2019, when I got an opportunity here. One of my managers said that there's something here. Would you be interested? And I was like, yes. I always wanted to see, I wanted to work at a global stage because I had worked in India for a very long time. I wanted to see how it is working. Just a simple reason, like come on the floor and see different cultures of people there and have a chat with them and see, because everybody's from a different college. We have learned something different and all comes together in creating something that for the company. So that was something that really interested me. I wanted to see the world as well, so I knew it was more accessible from here. That was one of the reasons, if I have to be honest. So I wanted to shift here and see how it is. I shifted here in 2020, just before COVID.
Right, okay.
So it was those, like, I hardly went to office for 2 weeks. When the office shut down one day, like Carol said, that you all have to go back because we are not working from office anymore. So that period, I was worried like anything because my parents were back home and the condition in India was really bad during wave 1 and 2. But here, at least, me and my husband, we got that opportunity to explore Glasgow in a different way. Like, we love Glasgow as the party, the pub. But at that time, everything was closed. So we could see the Kelvin Groves and the Clyde River walks as they were before COVID. So that was something that we really enjoyed.
Okay.
And it was nice.
Okay. And what would you say have been some of the lessons you have learned in your tech career? So you've obviously sort of grown from, starting at the very beginning. You're now a vice president. What lessons would you say have shaped your career and lessons that you've learned from your career that have helped with your growth and all of that?
I have had, so when I see now, there were some things that I wish. First, I'll talk about the lessons that I've learned, and there's some things that I really wish would have happened to me when I was young. So I have had very good tech mentors, I still have. So seeing them, I feel very motivated to be on this journey of learning, because tech is more or less, it's all about being on your toes. You have to keep learning. It's evolving every day. So the moment you let go, you're just going to get in the back seat, which I don't want to. So that constant learning rhythm has to be there. That is something that has to be there. And I have also felt empathy, it translates all across my life. So, and I feel that when I was, I think, 4 or 5 years into the tech, there was a manager in Morgan Stanley. I had done a mistake and I had screwed up something in production. Okay. And he was very calm about it. He was like, okay, we know it's wrong and we'll fix it. I thought he's just going to blast me off.
Gotcha.
I still remember that lesson. He was not a direct manager of mine. He was quite senior at that time. But I still remember that the path of empathy that he took with me helped me shape as a better developer.
Wow.
Because I was not constantly in panic that somebody is going to. So I still take that with my team. If there is something wrong, we can fix it. And my current manager, I'm hugely inspired by his temperament as well. So his temperament is also like that if there is a problem, we'll fix it. Yeah. There is no need for anybody to, get out of hand and be less professional. So for me, being professional somehow translated into being empathetic also.
Gotcha.
So that is something that those lessons I have definitely learned.
Okay, and you said about things that if you could sort of like go back, that you'd wish to have been a bit different.
Yeah, so here when I see on the floor when young people like you and even younger people are joining, you guys have excellent mentors on the floor. Like your leads, the leads that you're working with, they're really good. I really wish in my early phases when I was like 3 years, 4 years experience, I had mentors like that. Because that then defines your whole perspective towards technology. I had to do a lot of extra push to have that thing going on for me. I felt very demotivated because I did not have good mentors. I was like, I was not in for this. I wanted something better.
Gotcha. Okay.
But when I see you guys, I feel that tinge of, I wish I had this when I was young. It helps you shape. Now, when you become in a leadership position much later, these experiences are going to help you. The kind of feedback you give your juniors, because you have very good mentors. So it took a very long time for me to get that groove in the IT industry, because my initial phases were really tough, where I was...
How so?
Because I was working in not so good projects. I did not have good mentors. So it was just like I go to office, I don't do anything substantial and I come back. So it was not adding. And one point I thought I'll quit because it was not working out for me. But then things started rolling and I started getting good mentors. The Morgan Stanley mentor that I'm mentioning. So people like this came and it gave me hope that there is good work in the industry, because IT is more about finding the projects that you're working for. So if that gets screwed, especially for a fresher, we are lost. We don't know what... Right now, if something is going wrong, I have the potential to change it in the direction I want to.
Yeah.
But as a fresher, we did not have that liberty. So it was something that got a bit messed up at the start, but then I'm really happy it found its path.
And speaking about mentors, how did you go about looking for mentors then? So I know, for example, with the Morgan Stanley person, that happened with someone that was visible to you by virtue of the work you were doing. But in the other instances where you had to actually reach out to a mentor for mentoring, what was your process like for people listening in?
Yeah, so when I look for mentors, I first narrow down the list to 2 or 3 people, and then I try and find out people who are of similar work ethics than I am. And then that's how I try and approach them and then seek their mentorship.
Okay. Okay. And what would you say has been an advice that a mentor gave you that stuck with you professionally?
Keep your keeping your CV up to date is your responsibility. That's what somebody
Wow.
told me, and that is so true. Like being up to the mark in the industry is my responsibility. There's nobody else who's responsible for this, and that stuck to my head.
That's a good one. I'll take that one from you. I'll take that one from you. So yeah, speaking about all the other things you do Indian classical dancing, you're toddler mom, you're VP in technology, you do all these things. How do you find time for reading as well? How do you balance and find the time to sort of keep all these areas afloat?
I feel I'm a bit more organized than most people. So I know that when I'm reading books, I don't get time. So I know when I'm coming in train and going back,
Okay.
I do not scroll on the mobile. I will read during that time so that I just catch up on my reading.
So
Because
no
I
social
have-
media stuff on the train. I gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Uh-huh.
So try and find those small slots where I can do this. So weekends, I know that I can participate in some dance, do my dancing,
Okay.
things like that. So those are the things that I try and plan much in advance. So my calendar is like completely full. So I will plan everything meticulously in advance and try and stick to it.
Okay. So planning, making use of the free slots that you have
Free slots
and sort of
then.
maximizing
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Okay, sort of like moving on to a bit more reflective moments now, because we're sort of like getting to wrap up. Tell me a time where you felt proud, extremely proud of yourself outside your professional achievements.
Proud of myself.
Yeah.
So I think that was not long time back. It was 2021, and I had a tough time delivering my child. It was a complicated surgery that needed to happen for my son. So just 6 months after that, I performed in London after
Then
15
classical.
years. And that was something that I was really proud of. That it takes a lot of stamina to do. Like it was a 2.5 minutes dance, but an Indian classical dance having after a major surgery was something that took a toll on me physically as well. Being able to do that, and that somehow started the ball rolling for me again. So I'm again in the form of dancing, which I'd lost for 15 years in the middle. So coming on stage after 15 years, just 6 months after a surgery with a toddler, not even a toddler, infant, I felt really proud of myself that I could do this. And many of my friends actually pinged me on social media saying that this inspired them, saying that if she can do it, I can do
Gotcha.
it, kind of thing.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, there was something that you mentioned earlier that I thought we should maybe just talk about before we start to like wrap up the conversation. And it was about when you were growing, your mother was a great role model for you, and so you didn't feel any lesser in terms of any work you were doing. You could do any work essentially. But as you started to like navigate your career, and this was something you said in your bio about being an advocate for diversity, equity, and inclusion. Talk to me a bit about sort of like stereotyping, and particularly around women in technology, and how sort of you've approached that. And for ladies or girls listening right now, looking to sort of like aspire to career in technology, what would your thoughts be to them as well?
Yeah, I feel as technologists, like, there is no male good developer and female good developer. Anybody who can think on terms of what is needed or who's good at coding is gender neutral. But I feel girls, the way the upbringing is, we are always supposed to be soft spoken. We're supposed to, take a step back so the men in the family can do stuff that they need to do. That transcends. A person cannot be very different in professional and personal life. I'm the same Shilpi. So whatever is the upbringing, whatever is your upbringing, it somehow transcends into the professional life as well. So here also, even within the peers, if somebody is saying something, we take a step back saying that maybe he's right. So that I had to break that mindset, saying that I have something substantial to bring on the table. I should put it on the table. Whether people think that it's substantial enough or not is for them to decide. But I should not hold back my thoughts. I have to put it on the table. And that helped me a lot. If I need help, I need to speak about it. I cannot assume. If I have a point, I need to put it on the table. I cannot assume that people know or people don't want to listen to what I'm saying. So that imposter syndrome that we constantly have, that constant judgment that we have on ourselves, I feel that's much more in the female world. Even as female, just as homemakers or as technologists, we have to break those shackles. We have to come up, we have to stand on the podium and just claim our spot and say, not in a disrespectful way, but if you have a point, never go back and think about it. Should I have spoken
Yeah.
about it. Just
Yeah.
say it and see if people are interested or not.
Yeah, it's interesting because you answered my next question, which was going to be about, tell me about a fear you've sort of like overcome. I want us to sort of zero in or double click on imposter syndrome. How has been the process of you navigating that, and what things have helped you sort of navigate imposter syndrome? And what does it mean to you actually? What does imposter syndrome mean to you?
Imposter syndrome, it always feels like I am not good enough. I am not good enough to speak on this podcast. What would I say? My life is, I was just doing the regular things. But when I talk to people, it feels, no, I'm not doing regular things. And even if I'm doing regular things, maybe that one thing is inspiring something. It doesn't become regular. So that dance meant nothing to me. It was just out of sheer happiness. But it inspired 2 more people to, come out of their shell and pursue dancing even after childbirth or even after doing their jobs. That's just one of the examples, but our stories inspire other people.
Exactly.
There are a lot of things that I get inspired when I'm talking to you in office. You probably don't know, but it just happened, like your work for Bold or your work for Scotland. It gives me immense hope that there is a better world out there for my child who's born now. So we don't do things to be, out of the world or glamorous, but the small things that we're doing also add. So that imposter syndrome always holds you back. It tells you that you're not special enough to speak somewhere or put your point somewhere or be somewhere. So I had to constantly fight that, saying that no, maybe there is something that I can bring on the table. Let me just try and say, and then let's see what's the result going to be.
Gotcha. Okay. So it took a lot of intentionality to sort of like get above the voice in your head.
First time when you said that you want to be on the podcast, my first answer was no. Because it is not that I don't want to be. It's like I am not good enough to be on Sam's podcast. Then I took a moment. What I started doing, before replying, I started playing these voices in my head. I was like, why can I not be there? I think I can have a conversation. I do have a conversation with him on the floor. Maybe there's something that I say that inspires just one of his listeners. That's good enough. And that's how I took my time and then replied to you. You will notice I would have replied to you after 30, 40 minutes saying that, yeah, I am in. So I take some time to process, kill those voices in my head that say that you cannot do this because you're not good enough. That should not be the case with anybody. We all have to fight that. Intentionally.
It's interesting because like hearing you speak makes me again appreciate the power of stories and the power of sort of rising up to the moments, because you never know, just like you said with the doing it classical dance after 15 years, you inspired people as well. And the imposter syndrome is something I've also had to sort of deal with. I remember even before sort of getting to shoot where we are right now, I was telling my wife, Blessing, I was like, I really love for us to shoot the podcast in this building. And I was like, I don't know if they will ever say. It's like, why would anyone want to? I'm just, having conversations. And then I sent the email, hi, love to shoot. And then the email, the person who responded, who was like a senior manager, was like, I know your podcast and I love your podcast. And I was like, oh my goodness, imagine if I didn't give things a go.
Yeah, exactly. So, imagine if we didn't do that. We tie ourselves in shackles that we need to break on our own.
Oh my goodness. So giving things a go definitely is a huge second for me in this season particularly. And it's interesting that you say that. Another question for you. I think I've got maybe 2 or 3 more questions and then we'll wrap up. If you could relive any day of your life, what day would it be and why?
When I was having my son, I said it was a complicated surgery that I was having. So the first time they gave him to me for skin to skin, I was not in a position to enjoy that moment. My blood pressure was shooting down and was quite critical. If I could relive that moment, if I could just go there, stand and hold my little baby again, I would do that. Feeling as good as I feel now. Not feeling like a bag who's on morphines, and I didn't want to feel that way when I first saw him, because that is precious. He's a precious little baby. So if I could just relive that one moment, I would relive it a bit differently, where I am holding him and not feeling like that.
Gotcha. And how's mothering been for you?
Complicated. Ups and downs.
Tell me about it.
It's the most, like we were having a conversation the other day, right? It's a thankless job. You feel tired all the time, but you won't have it any other way. You won't have it any other way. I went through a bit of postpartum depression as well because I was never off work. So those 6 months were a bit difficult for me. I was not able to navigate. I was always like, will I be good enough to go back to work or not? So that constant struggle, which was right now feels meaningless, but was in that in that zone of my life felt a big monster, like a big elephant in my room. So I feel I could have enjoyed those moments better, like I'm doing it now with my son. But yeah, it has been an up and down, but now thankfully it's an up. I won't have it any other way.
Okay. And what's a dream or aspiration that you have that you've never shared before publicly? So something that you're like, someday I'd actually really love to do this, but you just, for some reason, never shared publicly.
I want to work in a bookshop.
In a bookshop?
Yes, I work it. I don't know. See, even now I didn't say I want to own a bookshop because it's like, am I good enough to own it? But like own a bookshop, be surrounded by books, because going to work there would be something that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Come in, like customers are coming in, I can share my recommendation, talk to them about what they would like. That would be a love, like that would be a life that I would love.
What would your bookshop? What would your bookshop be called?
Crazy. I don't know. I have to think about it. I don't know.
Okay. If listeners have any suggestions for Shilpi, let us know, and we'll definitely share them with her.
No wonder Notting Hill is my favorite movie.
Okay, so and about books, all right? I know, like you mentioned, books have sort of opened your eyes and all of that, and shown you the world and all of that really good stuff. What lessons would you say have been your biggest lessons from reading, and why do you like reading so much?
It gives me an insight into other person's mind. If I'm speaking to a person, what they say is something very superficial, and the conversations will never be that elongated, right, for me to understand. But books give you an insight into somebody who is sitting as far as, Kabul, as far as some basement in America. So that kind of exposure, like rather than exposure, I'm not claiming that I want to know everybody, but the human emotions that come of what people are thinking, it helps me. I feel it makes me a better person in my life. That empathy that brings in, because I try and understand other people's scenario as well, because you know what, I read it there and I know what the person is thinking. Helps you step into somebody else's shoes. You don't meet that many people in your real life, right? So it helps you a little bit step into somebody's shoes if somebody's going through the similar thing. Gotcha.
And what are you most proud of about yourself? So I know, like you mentioned, sort of like after 15 years, coming to classical dancing again. But I wanted to maybe speak into another thing that you'd be like, Shilpi, I'm proud of you for this, about this.
I'm an agony aunt for most of my friends.
You're what?
Agony aunt.
What's that?
An agony aunt will be like a person, like they'll come to, every time there's any problem, they'll come to that person.
Right, okay.
So I'm like that agony aunt for them. So I feel like I am a safe space for my friends. And I have friends from, so this is something that a person told me, that you know a person's worth by the friends that they keep, like the old friends that you have. So I have friends dating back to my nursery days. So I have kept terms with them, and like they still come and confide into me. So most of my friends can come and confide into me on the issues that they're having. So I feel that me being a safe space speaks volumes about the person that I am as well.
Wow. How do you balance that though? Because sometimes I've tried to do that sometimes, and then I feel overwhelmed with like and take people's pressures and people's agonies and then I sort of make them my own as well. Does that happen to you?
Yeah, I'll not lie. That happens to me as well.
How do you keep the balance then?
I might not be that good at keeping the balance, but I think I try and see myself as a third person. I completely detach myself from the situation and try and see how it can be better for random two people. Because human emotions, like I'm saying, it all depends. Any situation can trigger you differently than it can trigger me because of the feelings or the emotions or the relationships that are involved. So if you are coming and telling me about a problem that you are having with somebody in your life, for me, the trigger won't be as impactful or as distressing as it is for you because you have different terms. So it's easier for me to give you suggestions. I think that's how it plays.
Yeah, interesting.
I think I'm a natural.
Yeah, to be fair, I remember the day I thought this has to stop was when I got the call with someone who was sort of sharing, and I felt depressed after the call. I was like, I don't think this is the right way to go about being confident. So I think, like you say, I'm also trying to sort of like
Yeah,
detach
yeah,
myself
detach,
while
yeah.
being there for people. If you could talk to 18-year-old Shilpi, all right, like Shilpi was right here, and you could talk to her about anything and give her any piece of advice, what would it be?
Get rid of your imposter syndrome ASAP. There is nothing that will hold you back more than that. Because you are capable of a lot of things, you just don't know you are. And that's to every small girl who's there, who's trying to get something, who's from a very small part of India, trying to get somewhere. Let not, like these societal norms, don't let them hold you back. It's not worth it. You are worth something so much more. It's just in your head, you have to tell yourself that you're worth more.
Okay, and I tend to flip this question. If you could talk to 80-year-old Shilpi, so imagine 80-year-old Shilpi is listening back to this conversation, and it's like, oh, okay. And you could say something to her that you'd want her to listen to back then. I'd be like, oh, right. What would that be?
You did well. You were a good mom.
Oh.
I just want her to know that, like, because I feel being a good mom to my son would mean a lot to me. Like,
Why?
I don't know, because I have very good terms with my parents. So for both me and my husband, we feel it is going to be a winner for both of us if when he is 30 years old and he still wants to visit us for holidays. Just not by any formality, but because he wants to. He just wants to spend an evening with us. That would be a great win for both of us as parents.
Okay. And we're sort of like wrapping up now, but Shilpi, thank you so much. This has been an enjoyable conversation. I think a couple of takeaways that you said that resonated with me was the idea of not letting our imposter syndrome sort of like hold us back. And giving things a go even when we don't necessarily feel like we're up for that. But in terms of like closing words to our listeners, this is your chance to say absolutely anything on any subject. It could be a passion of yours, it could be a song lyric, it could be a quote that you've heard recently, it could be a recommendation to talk to the listeners of Stories That Shape Us podcast to say anything to them. What would that be?
Like on the closing note, I would say like a lot of things in this world, especially in your 30s, might feel overwhelming because you're doing a lot of things at the same time. Your parents are getting old. Your child is growing up. So it feels overwhelming. But I feel in my head, I always say, this too shall pass. I need to enjoy. So that every moment that is there. I recently heard Roger Federer on his graduation speech, and he says that even when he's hitting the ball, if there's one miss that goes, he doesn't ponder over that. He goes to his next set. He goes for his next round. That is how we need to lead our lives. Because if we keep dwelling on the past, it's not going to help anybody. More often than not, you. It's just going to bring you down. So you need to move forward. It's okay if there's something that is going wrong in the past, but you still have the opportunity. So don't feel overwhelmed. Just try and take it one day at a time, and you'll be good.
How have you dealt with that, though? Like, how have you sort of like dealt with moving on from the past and not letting that attach you, like hold you down and all of that
Doing
stuff?
things that I love. Getting busy with not dwelling on the constant conversation that I had with somebody, or not dwelling on something that didn't go well. I move on. I'll listen to a song. I'll read a book, or I'll see something that interests me. So moving on to do sometimes just taking your, tying up your shoes and just getting out of the house. That's also is needed. So just to change of scene, change of thought process helps you a lot.
Okay. Well, everyone, a big massive thanks to Shilpi. We're linking Shilpi's LinkedIn and other socials in the show notes. So if you want to reach out to Shilpi to give her a shout out or to connect with her, Shilpi, are you taking on any mentoring currently in technology?
I haven't this year because of the sheer, but I will again start looking for next year.
Okay, so can people potentially reach out to you?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, yeah. So if you're interested in mentoring, I've known Shilpi for maybe like two years. I've been in the team, and Shilpi is a vibe on the floor. Like Shilpi's energy is contagious, and Shilpi honestly is someone I love to work with. She is giving advice from everything from like childcare to even like featuring on one of the things we had at work, and she's been very, very supportive and encouraging. So Shilpi, a massive thanks to you for your time. I've had a lovely time talking with you, and I hope maybe sometime in the future we can have a conversation like this.
Sure.
But until next time, thank you so much,
Thank
and
you.
have a wonderful one.
Thank you.
Yeah. Perfect.